And wow, my friends, talk about a massive explosion coming from the sun. Luckily, we have some good news about that, which we'll get into in just a minute. But man, oh man, was this thing no joke. Take a look at the LASCO C3 cam right there. Again, we will come back to this as well. We are also going to be checking out the newly active Atlantic Ocean. Take a look at this. 3 separate storms with almost 80% chance of cyclone formation. And nothing like an activated tsunami buoy in the Gulf of Mexico. What is going on here? As I said, my friends, a lot to talk about, including a meteor sighting seen by hundreds of people in the Northeast. That includes Ontario, Canada, parts of Montreal. We got Ottawa in there, and even as far north as Quebec City. It is good to see you, my friends. We're going to break this all down right here, right now. Let's go. Alright, my friends, welcome back. It is August 31st. We are almost in September. First thing we're going to talk about here is this explosion off the sun. Now, I want to be clear, this explosion did take place away from Earth facing, which means it pretty much will not affect us, but the point of the matter is that the sun's activity has been through the roof. And in fact, we're going to take a look at a chart that is familiar here on this channel, just to show you how many CMEs or solar flares we've had just in the last few days. Alright, so for some of you, this may be repeat news, but again, this is very important for us to see. So starting before the 29th, you can see 2 M-class flares. Here was 1, here was 2 right here, and now since then, moving through the 31st, any one of these lines that goes above the M-class level, which is right here. So this entire box we're looking at, anything above this box is an M-class flare. So we've got 2 from back on the 29th. Moving through the rest of the 29th, we have a 3rd and a 4th, and then we have to count these 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a big, long, drawn-out one that we just saw on the LASCO charts. Now, again, these were not Earth-facing, which means, besides some minor interruptions with maybe radio blackouts or things of that nature, the most important idea to know here is that the sun is super active, so eventually we're going to be getting those sunspots, those coronal holes, which I will show you in 1 second, that do become Earth-facing. So it really is just a matter of time before one of these is launched at Earth. In fact, if we look at this version of the SDO cam, you're going to see this far right sunspot is completely going crazy, which is okay with us because it is not Earth facing. But again, more of these sunspots are becoming Earth facing. We have one right here, and then we do have a pretty significant coronal hole, which we'll be able to see on another chart, that is in fact moving into Earth facing and almost dead level with the equator of the sun, which is where Earth lines up perfectly. In fact, here is that coronal hole right now, which means once it does make its way into this area right here, it's going to be dead center in line with Earth, which means once this coronal hole does make it towards the center of the sun, which is where the Earth is lined up, we should expect a very, very big uptick in seismic activity or even possible radio blackouts, things of that nature, which in part could lead to a very big reason of why we're starting to see the earthquake uptick once again on the eastern half of the United States. Take a look at some of these quakes, or at least reported ground shaking. We have a big bulk up here in Boston near Massachusetts. We got parts of Connecticut and Rhode Island mixed in with that as well. Now, if I move to 7 days all magnitude, this would actually incorporate past history on the sun, like we said, leading from the 26th until current time, with that energy taking about 36 to 48 hours to reach Earth. So it does make sense of why we've seen these earthquakes or seismic events taking place in the northeast of the United States over the last 7 days. Again, that is something I will break down even further in future videos, but because we have so many topics to cover today, I'm going to give you a general rundown of what's happened over the last few days. You were looking at a massive meteor sighting that took place over the northeast of not just the United States, but many, many parts of Canada. Take a look at this. We're talking hundreds of reports of this exact same meteor, and what's very interesting is there's only one video of this. This video we're about to watch was submitted by Eric Lofgren, and to be honest, it's not the greatest meteor sighting, but it is one nonetheless. Now, I'm just still surprised how this is the only one we were able to capture with hundreds of people seeing it. it. I'll play that for you guys again. You can see it streak across the sky right there, almost right in front of his view of his dash cam. It is a good thing that we at least got one sighting of this, but again, these things are becoming more and more frequent all over, specifically the northeast of the United States. All right, and now we're going to jump over to Mike's weather page, an amazing source for tropical cyclone weather charts and updates. And you can see here Invest 91, which is expected to become a hurricane. Now, as of now, it does not look like it's going to be any threat to the United States. We all know this stuff can change. But again, this Invest is showing signs of those bubbling storms, things starting to connect and really start to form. Now, the next trait we're going to see is this thing starting to begin to turn in a counterclockwise rotation. It does look like the power in there is being generated enough for that to be a possibility, which is why we can go to this chart right here, the Invest 91L model intensity guidance chart, where they have plenty of models bringing this thing up to a high category 2, in some cases a category 3. But the good news about this particular storm is that most models, if not all of them, have this bending up north into the Atlantic Ocean before making contact with any part of the United States. We could see the eastern end of Florida right here, but chances are, because of different flows in the jet stream and things of that nature, this will probably bend up into the middle of the ocean and not be an issue for the US. But that doesn't mean the storms behind it won't be. And of course, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves with predicting where these storms are going to go, but we could see that Invest popping up here while another one pops up way up in this area. Maybe an issue for some of the northern parts of the Atlantic. We'll check on that as time goes on. But then we also have a storm forming in the Pacific, which has been very active this year. We'll continue to move forward here and see what else the Atlantic has to offer. And as of right now, besides a little bit of a low pressure system popping off the eastern part of the United States, you see right there coming through the Carolinas, I should say, with not much pressure behind it. We got to wait and see as well. We're looking into September 14th, so quite a ways away for us to make any sort of solid predictions. And finally, my friends, I know we're going through this fairly quickly, but again, I'll be breaking down some of these situations individually in upcoming videos, but we do have an activated tsunami buoy in the dead center of the Gulf of Mexico. In fact, once you change the settings and go specifically to tsunami buoys, this is the only real tsunami buoy we have in the Gulf, and it is in activation mode. If we go ahead and click the data, the only thing that's interesting to me is that a lot of the normal data is missing. These blue lines are fairly normal. You usually see them wave up and down as the currents change or the tide changes throughout the day, but what we don't see is what activated this buoy. I'm hoping that data will process later on so we can actually take a look at it, but there is something that set this buoy off. There are no earthquakes in the area, which makes it even a little more suspicious than if we were to have the data that told us why this thing's going off. We just don't know right now. It could be a total glitch, but the fact that it's in the Gulf of Mexico and that does not happen too often, I will definitely be keeping an eye on this. There's no doubt about that whatsoever, as well as all the other situations taking place. I know it's been a few days, but we are back at it. I appreciate each and every one of you watching this video. Questions or concerns, please leave down below. I am sure we're going to have plenty to talk about specifically when it comes to this sun. In fact, the action taking place on that right limb right now just goes to show that some of these other sunspots may be about to do the same exact thing. So I will be here to report this all to you. And until then, my friends, shout out to Canada. Take care. Bye-bye. Stop right there, my friends. If you have not already, click that subscribe button and don't forget to hit the bell icon. Click all and you will get all notifications from this channel. And trust me, you won't be disappointed.